All right, Jaz, John Robb.
Hey, how you doing, John?
I'm okay.
We can talk about anything you like.
Yeah.
You can fire any questions, any random questions, any things that come off the top of your head, and I'm ready.
Okay, let's start with the business then. Laws of Chaos, great track, classic Killing Joke. Also, very much of the moment. It's like a news bulletin.
Well, when Killing Joke's on form, we tend to capture the zeitgeist of any particular moment in time. And that's been something that's been consistent throughout our almost 44-year career. And that's the case, capturing the moment and what the hell is going on. It's, the people in the world these days are undergoing shock after shock on their system. If it's not the pandemic, it's the threat of extinction.
Yeah.
And so it's these things. And when I talk to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist, and he starts at 6 a.m. and he finishes about 9 at night. And before the pandemic, a third of the world is in desperate need of psychiatric help. And bearing in mind that 88% of people in the West 2 paychecks away from homelessness. So that you imagine the stresses, and then the lockdown, followed by the threat of extinction. It's just one thing after another. And the effect this has on the human psyche is not to be underestimated. And Killing Joke is part of channeling this dreadful fear that there's been part of my life for almost 62 years now. I'm thinking Cuban Missile Crisis, Dad telling me what nuclear war is around about 4 or 5 years of age. And then this oppressive feeling that we're all going to get wiped out any second, which has been the undercurrent throughout the remainder of my life, you see. Yeah. So, and as I reached this grand old age, I feel there's a moral imperative for me to tell people who are just going into this feeling of, well, there's going to be either diplomacy or extinction kind of minefield. And then people are trying to kind of process all this. And what my father used to say to me was, he used to remind me of the time when there was a 3-day window period when they thought the Nazis were coming over here, and what it was like. And he always reminded me of this feeling, and emphasizing the fact that throughout man's history, there's always been an external threat of one kind or another that we simply have to live with. And of course, it creates this flight or fight adrenaline that we've got a kind of excess of. And so when I look at the social function of Killing Joke, it's so important at this time, at this moment in time. And of course, we have another generation who's experiencing the benefits of channeling this construct of fear that our current elite create, and channel it in a way that, when you think of Killing Joke, you think, the joke, laughter. And when you think of laughter, you have to remember one thing: when we're laughing, there's no fear.
Yeah.
and so the Killing Joke is this fearless state where we all come together and we laugh at the tragedy of our modern world with this ape with an enlarged brain throwing rocks at each other, and it has an enormous social function, hence Killing Joke's global popularity at this time.
So do you find what you refer to in the lyrics as a sixth great extinction, which is great because I love that expression, because I know about the other five. Do you find it actually almost creatively inspiring in a weird way? You know, that darkness and that tension.
Well, it's something we all have to live with. I mean, my career is highlighted by living with massive stresses as a performer and this kind of thing. And to add to this, you know, I'm a diabetes 1 now, so like blood sugars are. When I'm performing with Killing Joke, blood sugars are over 20 often, and like my vision's dizzy and everything. But and these are things that like I have to kind of deal with. But it doesn't stop it. It doesn't stop me continuing the job, whatever state I'm in.
Yeah.
So like the stresses, yes. Well, they're part of it. You have to make a friend of it, don't you?
Yeah. So is it a way of embracing the tension and darkness, or does it kind of spark the creativity? Or if we were living in some sort of utopia, would you find it impossible to compose anything, or would your music just sound
That's a very
different?
good point. I will concede that like great art comes from friction, suffering, and not. I mean, you know, I'll give you an example. When I'm not doing this and I decide to go to paradise because I've got a chunk of paradise on the other side of the world. When I get to this island of exquisite natural beauty, I don't do any work there whatsoever because the whole environment is, stress-free, and I don't feel like creating one bit, not one iota of music. I go fishing and I just kind of fishing and hunting and this kind of thing. I think that all great art comes from dissonance of one kind.
I mean, do you feel any shred of optimism about the future at all? Because in the song, you talk about the sixth great extinction and the insects are next, so the age of the mammals is over, and the insects are the only survivors. Which...
Well, the way I see it is this is one possible timeline that you know, when I consider the world leaders in countries like China, Russia, and the US first and foremost, because they're the biggest threats on the planet as far as I'm concerned, is these superpowers and their relationships. So I mean, you know, none of us want to go to war. No Chinese or Russian or American really wants war. There's no future in it. These nuclear weapons are 40 times the power of Hiroshima. For example, you drop one of these bombs on London, it takes out Madrid or Reykjavik and Paris in between. But I mean, you know, once we start, anybody who seriously talks about winnable nuclear wars, they should be in a mental asylum. Frankly, there is no such thing. I mean, when Kissinger wrote his PhD on winnable nuclear war, that was at a time when the nuclear weapons were little firecrackers. Yeah. And possibly you could have had a nuclear war and recovered from it in 1945. But these days, I'm afraid it's just completely impossible. And there's no future in it. And here's the problem. The problem is when you get like males that are kind of over 60 and you put them together, research shows that males take risks, and with like thermonuclear warheads everywhere, this is not a good idea, and multiple flashpoints. I mean, it's not the good old days of Soviet Union versus America. It's like multiple flashpoints across the globe, increasing the law of averages of some catastrophic accident where, you know, I mean, we're just tweaking AI at the moment. And so artificial intelligence is running all our weapon systems, okay? And so when one artificial intelligence misreads another artificial intelligence, which has happened in tests, it is called complex systems failure. and that can quite easily happen when you consider how close we are on the doomsday clock to complete annihilation. So it is a frightening time. It's a wonderful and terrible time.
It's interesting you mentioned that thing about males over 60 meeting and, the mindset. And I'm just wondering if you could transfer that to Killing Joke when you meet again after, every few months, every year or so, back in the rehearsal space, back in the room.
Well, you're completely right. Let me tell you what I've always thought for the last pretty much 44 years. I figure this. Everybody, all the members of Killing Joke are so different. They're such strong personalities. It truly is hard to reach any sort of consensus. But if we can do it, there's hope for the world, because it's a microcosm of a wider society. And if we can reach consensus, yes, there's hope for the world. And all the way to Killing Joke's music, there is a promise that after this time of darkness, we will reach the golden age. And we are the last, speaking from a Hindu perspective, we are at the last stage of what is known as Kali Yuga, which is the age of iron and darkness. And if you look at the disparity between the rich and the poor on this planet, it is beyond obscene. When you've got 0.1%, 0.1% of 1% owning in excess of 60% of the world's natural resources, it is obscene. When you see so many people suffering through this pandemic, and so many people, from Elon Musk to Branson to the elite in their super lodges, benefiting from everybody else's misery, something has to change at some point. Now, I'm writing a thesis at the moment, and I call it The Pendulum, and it goes like this. Just to clarify where we are in history, it was Mussolini who said that fascism is ruled by corporations. Yeah. And we are being ruled by corporations. And so therefore we are in a most virulent form of fascism currently. But with the pendulum theory, once the pendulum swings so far one way, it's going to whiz back the other way. And can you imagine it when this planet wakes up to the technotronic system of enslavement that's been put in place, to hear these people in the World Economic Forum talk about the reintroduction of slavery and e-workers, and having conversations whether the e-workers of tomorrow should have pleasure or memory senses. You see, this is the world that these idiots are trying to create around us. And I say no. I might be an older gentleman, but I say this is completely disgusting and unacceptable, and I'm just so against it, and eventually this is going to crumble, because enslavement can never last forever. And the kind of enslavement that they're talking about, well, we're in it already, aren't we? Look at those 5G masts everywhere. I mean, you can't tell me that microwave tires just blasting us is good for our health. I don't care what anyone says. It's a lie. It's a lie, and it's buried, and because there's complete control of the media, we can't see anything. We're being sprayed, where they find fucking all the things from this pandemic. They find COVID in tops of mountains and deserts. Well, how did it get there? It's not thousands of people all coughing and the wind carries it. Are you fucking joking? Are you simple? This is called stratospheric aerosol injection. That's how the COVID's getting across everybody's heads and go. And I'd like to say, if anybody in GCHQ is listening to this or MI5, you are such disgusting traitors. I would have you all executed, every last one of you. So there we are. What else would you like to know?
So do you feel that, we're all, even you, like, you can see the situation, do you feel like we're also trapped in this matrix as well? Or do you feel like you're kind of on the outside looking in?
Stay like this. Listen, you can't love rock music and support our current system, because rock music is built around one song, and it's called freedom. And this, what we're talking about, this is enslavement. What's the system, the structure that's being put around us, this technotronic grid, architects of which were people like Zbigniew Brzezinski, who, when I was 10, he put out the book Between Two Worlds, which outlines this future nightmare. By the time I was 18 and I'd met Big Paul Ferguson, all the people around us were Tavistock people. And they had this book, Between Two Ages, which is about the introduction of the technotronic world, and the reintroduction of slavery, and delivering all sorts of things into people's bodies to keep them medicated in the modern society. You look at it now. Look at where we are in the United Kingdom. We're heading towards transhumanism. You will find that you won't be seeing your GP doctor anymore. You will never see them again. After speaking to your GP on the phone when you're ill, after this, they tell you to put wearables on or devices. But we won't see our doctors anymore. And you can just guarantee that our current elite, all the people that fly into Davos, they've all got their personal physicians, every last one of them.
Yeah.
But us, the ordinary people, we have to pick up the phone to some idiot who can't diagnose our condition unless they see us in the person, but that's never going to happen again. They want this irreversible, the changes that they've made, as we march towards transhumanism and unisex toilets, and like people, 13-year-olds having 40 different gender types to choose from. Well, if you think this is a normal society, you just carry on. After this year, I can tell you now, I'm getting out of it, because I don't like the way they're developing the West, and I'm gone. I'm out of here. It's just disgusting.
I mean, do you go to New Zealand, to the island, or do you still feel like...
Well, I can go to the fucking island, but I don't think it's any different down there. Yeah. New Zealand's got its own set of problems. I mean, New Zealand has the highest rate of homelessness in the world per capita, right? It's terrible what's going down there. My son-in-law saw the way it was going, and he committed suicide. He was so depressed about the state of things in New Zealand. No, it's just as bad. Then they have other problems in New Zealand. Bear in mind this: the second biggest language in New Zealand is Mandarin Chinese.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the current Prime Minister, who's going to be out soon, she wanted to get out of the Five Eyes Alliance, such as the influence of China down there. So it's a whole different set of problems in New Zealand. There's problems everywhere on the planet. I mean, what you don't see in the media when you go across America is the thousands and thousands of kind of tent cities that are across the entire nation, and the level of homelessness in the Western world is just shocking beyond belief. It's almost too much to go on tour in America to see like ordinary families in tents, and how could we have got to this stage? And when we see how many people are making billions and billions every year, the super rich, I mean, then there must come a day of reckoning. There must come a day of reckoning. And the thing is, people don't know who's doing this. Well, I can tell you who's doing this. It's the Council of Foreign Relations in America. They are spearheading the corporate takeover of the world, and it's the Royal Institute of International Affairs over here. Both were outgrowths of what was known as the Cliveden set, which emerged before the last World War from All Souls College in Oxford.
Yeah,
and it's just elitists, basically. And I've always, I'm speaking as an Indian now, I've always had a loathing of the caste system in India, and I have a loathing of the caste system in United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And I sincerely am convinced that all men are equal, regardless of race or anything. But they're trying to impose something else on us here, where it's the super elite and a load of slaves, and it's just whether the wider public are gonna not just bend over but pay for the Vaseline. I mean, think about it. Think about like the suffering in this country. It could be completely resolved. Think about what we've gone to war for. Look at the last 20 years. We've gone to war in Iraq, well, on 2 occasions, and the last time for weapons of mass destruction that we know did not exist, with the dodgy dossiers and stuff like this. And of course, when we turfed that country, there was no mention of all the refugees that were created by that. When you compare it to what's happening now, I mean, and the media, what to say about it all? What we did in Iraq is disgusting. I'm not going to say we, because I've got a New Zealand passport and they didn't get involved. I'm not really British anymore. I won't have anything to do with what's happening in the world. And for the last 10 years, I've seen the problem that's going to happen in Ukraine. Everybody thought it's got half a brain, but thought it was going to happen a lot earlier. There's no rights or wrongs, but this could have been avoided. And now we're in the situation, and I'll repeat it again. It's either diplomacy or extinction.
I mean, do you see your role as an artist is to put the spotlight onto this, or to embrace the darkness?
No one else really bothers to do it, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, a few of them sort of cover a few different areas, like Roger Waters, who I've got a great deal of respect for. He could be taking life easy, but he puts his balls on the line, and I have a deep love and respect for this man.
But it's also a way for you personally to process this darkness, for your own...
Well, my dad brought me up, and he took me around all the bloody concentration camps, and he said, what went wrong was all the good people refused to speak out about evil that was growing. I mean, they saw the concentration camps being built and everything like that. The Germans then, or Hitler's willing executioners, as my father called them, and when you look at the resettlement and internment camps across every Western nation, especially in the United States, where they have red zones and blue zones, the FEMA camps, of course, people should be extremely worried and alarmed.
Yeah.
My life's over. It doesn't matter what happens to me. And my life, but subsequent generations, we have to change the system, and I'm the first to say it. We have to change it. We have to get rid of the top. We have to conceive of taking the top 1,000 companies and neutralizing them. We have to conceive of ideas of this, neutralizing them. Yeah? We have to conceive of ideas of a neo-Bolshevik solution to this current mess, because all men are equal, and I am opposed to elites taking 2/3 of the natural resources and making so much money. People like Elon Musk, I think they're disgusting. He's got a pretty face and all that kind of thing. He sells a good, he's talking about minding Mars, but he could solve so many of the problems on the planet just himself. So could have like you two who've lived a complete tax-free existence all their lives. They've made in excess of $1 billion. Why don't they donate some of this to the suffering in the world, instead of starting dodgy charitable enterprises that don't make anything for ordinary people, and teaming up with people like Bill Gates? I mean, Bono's teamed up for genocidal purposes. Have a look at India. Bill Gates' reputation there is not so good.
Yeah,
you know, well, there you are. I mean, we should be able to speak freely, but like in this country, the peaceful protest is now outlawed. I mean, these things, somehow the British people have allowed these things to happen. They've allowed them to happen. And there you are. It's down to the spinelessness of these people, of just accepting this in such a passive manner. I'm sure this phone call's been listened to, and you know, but they can get fucked. Whether he's listening to this phone call, they can get fucked, because I mean every word of it. I'm just an old gentleman with grandchildren, you know, and this is just disgusting. I just don't believe in the way this world's going, and I don't believe it will last. All their dreams of silent forests and their technotronic new world order, it won't happen because of one simple reason: cataclysm's coming. Cataclysm is coming, and it's going to wipe out a lot of things anyway. This is just what you're seeing now is a last-minute land grab by the powers, the big powers, just before pole shift. A pole shift is actually, I have to tell you, it's happening now as we speak. I spoke to pilots, and you know, they don't want so many planes flying around. They have to reset GPS every 10 days now, because the magnetic north is acting very, very strange. Yeah, you know. And yes, and they do set it. They do set the GPS to the magnetic north. Not everything, but it's going to be problematic. You see, here's the thing: is our solar system has its own orbit, and our solar system is going through its winter period. It's going through a time where on its orbit where we're going through bumpy periods where space weather, as Obama quaintly put it, will be happening. You know, like everything from asteroids to you name it. Now, every 12,800 years, this happens to our planet, and we're at that time now. We're at that time prior to like a massive upheaval. It's the duty of each and every one of us to get perspective on it. As for the existing powers, and they're just trying to control populations, you have to understand that the first two world wars historically were fought between nation states. World War III is fought against populations, against human beings. It really is. Globally, it is. It's a disgusting concept. But most of the things that we see on the world stage, in the words of the Right Honourable Dennis Healey, of course, who was a member of Bilderberg, he said, I'll try and quote it, he said, everything that happens geopolitically is staged. Everything. Yeah. Everything that we see, right the way down to when they instigated one nuke to go off, so everybody's terrified and will accept any kind of system as opposed to nothing. And this is terrifying the human race, using shock tactics of fear and terror. You know, and that's why it's important to get to this fearless state, which Killing Joke has a massive role in getting to this fearless state. The music, it helps you get there. And going out and having this collective musical experience where we're all in the same boats and we can take comforts of being in the same room together and sharing this turbulent time together and delighting in each other's company.
The empowerment of the gathering.
Absolutely, the empowerment of the gathering, which, you know, when I got to Iceland in 1982 with Geordie, that's when we had the ideas of disbanding an existing fan club and creating a global community, a network of counterculture. There you are. Yes.
So I mean, so in effect, the Lords of Chaos are the people creating the geopolitical theatre.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's right. And we're talking global. You have to understand one of the most exciting things we've discovered in our career recently is one of our biggest markets we've never played, and that's India. And I'm Indian. I am proud to be Indian. I've had been on the end of such racism in this country from the 60s onwards. And as we speak at the moment, I'm getting my person of Indian origin sorted out. It's not as if I want to live in India. I don't. But I want to, I want to tour India, and I want to take music there, and I want to delight in being Indian. And so, like, that's one of the things that's ahead of me. You know, I'm leaving after this tour. I'm going to leave Europe. I'm going back to South America, where I'm concentrating on other projects. But yeah, the BRIC nations interest me much more than the West.
So as you get older, do you find yourself more drawn towards your Indian side, or is that just something that's been?
Yes, I have. Yes, very much so. That's true. And I was with an Indian gatherer who was hanging around the band from 1980 last night, and we were kind of reflecting on this, and he was talking about how he uses mantras to change his fate and this kind of thing, and how Killing Joke. You see, like for young Indian people in the 80s and 90s, like Killing Joke had meaning. Well, because of me, because I'm Indian. I'm Anglo-Indian. I'm proud of it, extremely proud of it. And so we had many like Indian gatherers who run away from their homes, you know, and stuff like this. We were following the band at this time, and of course we've all grown up and had children and grandchildren now. But their children and some of their children have all become like gatherers, and
yeah,
the cycle goes on, you know. Yeah, I'm so proud of. I tell the boys I'm so proud of what we've created with our Killing Joke, with our gathering, with our community. I'm so proud of what we've done. No other band has created a community quite like us. Possibly Grateful Dead, but nowhere. I mean, that was a 60s CIA-funded thing. The Grateful Dead, and we don't. We draw our inspiration from the conscientious objectors of the First World War.
Yeah.
Yes, we do, and because we are like, war is not the answer. That means you failed once you start war of any kind. You failed. I'm a student of the Chinese art of war, and it's got me through this career, the music industry, and I follow this. And of course, if you actually start a physical war, it means you pretty much lost. You know, the art of war is about strategy, not actually war. It's about moving into space without conflict. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So musical career, in a sense, is like an act of war.
Oh, for sure it is. I mean, look. Okay, you're in a band, and then the most terrifying thing happens: money comes, and then you see human nature for what it is. Human beings are greedy, and they turn against each other. But what we did in Killing Joke, we set up. We proved that there's a certain amount of collectivism, or I won't say communism, because that's always associated with Karl Marx and Lenin, and I hate them. But you know, we split everything equally. We're collectivists, and that's why we're here, because we're all motivated equally, and everybody gets the same.
Yeah.
And even if some people do more than other people, it's tough shit. Everybody gets the same in our system, and it's a good system. People, other bands should follow the Killing Joke model. It's a good system. We've survived. Other bands at this stage, they're all fucking bitter and warring with each other. And of course, there are things that completely irritate everybody in Killing Joke about each other. We don't always like each other, but we always love each other.
Yeah. Oh. So, I mean, I'm still fascinated by how such four pretty disparate individuals can find a way of working around each other. Or do you just...
The thing is... there's a lot of love there. It's this Killing Joke has brought so much joy to us. It's protected us. We have our own health system in Killing Joke. We have everything. We have gatherers who have their own pharmacies. We have gatherers who are doctors. We have gatherers who are secreted in all sorts of positions, from high up in NATO to you name it. They're everywhere. We created our own secret society, and there's no initiation or membership fees. You just are a gatherer or not. A gatherer is somebody who not just loves the music of Killing Joke, but they gather knowledge.
Yeah.
They gather knowledge. We have the most intelligent audience out of the entire rock world, in my opinion. The most well-informed audience. Yes, we do. I'm so proud of that. I don't want, millions of cretins fucking coming to my concerts.
Yes.
I want the energy that's of a higher vibration, a consciousness that is capable of other things and beautiful things. Gatherers have gone to do marvelous things. We have earth communities all over the world that we're linked to, and people looking at ways to get off the grid and a counterculture, living another life instead of the life of economic slavery that's rammed in all of our faces. 6 years before I was born, slavery was ended on the planet. Of course, they want to restart it now, but of course, economic slavery wasn't ended. People, and it should be, because I have these talks with my brother, who's a famous scientist, and the fact is, if this artificial intelligence carries on, the entire human workforce will be made redundant. I mean, 75% of it. So the role of the arts in beautifying the planet is paramount. I mean, we have to. The arts are feared by our current elites because the arts are a potential hotbed of dissent.
Also, of creating a beauty, which are kind of getting out the lyrics of Lords of Chaos. There's that line about our arts and our excellence, and is that about a light in the shade as well?
Well, I think of them. If I think of the most wonderful traits of Homo sapien, I think of the arts. For sure, and the strides made in with the arts, and because the arts are, they incorporate everything. When you think of the kind of buildings you like to hang out in, that's great architecture that makes you feel like that, and it's the art that makes you feel like that. But whereas there's no art in modern architecture as we see it now, it's just maximum output for modern minimum input. Is this kind of concept of greed, capitalism? We have to transcend this. We have to transcend this to a new renaissance of beautifying the planet, letting nature create paradise on Earth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we leave it alone, and hence, the United Nations, their way of dealing with this is to basically. That what they want to do is clear all the wilderness areas of people and shunt everybody into these super smart cities, which go down under the ground and go up. Your kind of Hollywood dystopia come true. And and this is the kind of plan the World Economic Forum and others like what's it called, Sun Valley, these kind of people. This is the future they have for us. But I disagree. Yeah. I think it's crap. I don't want a world shaped by geeks. Hey. I want to see mass reforestation. I want to hear about the restoration of the biosphere. I want to hear about cleaning our rivers and streams up and shutting down corporations that are polluting. I want to hear this.
It's interesting you saying about when you talk to your brother, and I know your brother is, of course. And do you think there's some kind of parallel in art and science, a similar way of thinking, or are they two very different spheres, or is there a crossover?
No, I'm hoping the next generation can get to a mindset of service as opposed to what I can get out of it, greed. If we could all embrace the concepts of I am the other you and you are the other me, the interconnectedness of us all, and emphasizing empathy, and the arts that we need to embrace must release oxytocin, because oxytocin, which is the hug hormone, makes us feel love towards the human race. So we need art that is going to create an excess of oxytocin within each and every one of us. Of course, when we make love, we create oxytocin. When we hug, we have to look at this and use our art skillfully to truly make a better planet.
And what role?
Well, I've got a farm, a small farm, a long way away from here, and I just had a look at my garden recently, and it's just full of vegetables and pomegranate trees and stuff like this. And of course, I could be there any time. I don't have to be here. I don't even have to work anymore. I don't have to do this, but I'm driven to do this. I live 300 miles away from the Ukrainian border when I'm not in Prague. I'm that close I'm that close. And I could be in the Pacific on the island right now, laying on the beach. I don't want it. I want to be touring here with Killing Joke and be on the front line right now. This is my destiny.
Yeah, so you believe that this is what you have to do, but also you embrace it as well. This is what you want to do.
I embrace it.
Yeah.
I mean, like last year, I went to death's door. I really did. I mean, I lost 40% of my body weight, and they said to my then partner, we've lost a patient. And the experience was most sublime and surreal. So every day, to cut a long story short, every day is a bonus and a blessing, as it's a blessing talking to you now. And I try to be aware of every second, and that I'm here not for my own pleasures or self-gratification, but I'm here, and it truly is a mission that I started with Big Paul Ferguson when I was 18. And here I am at 62 with the same guys. The Supreme One is great. I have to say this now.
Yeah.
I have to give thanks and praise to the absolute Supreme One that governs all human affairs, because we are blessed and we are here as like a senior senior spokesman of the counterculture, yes, maybe, but collectively, Killing Joke, I would say that. Between the four of us, we have 250 years of wisdom when we've become one. Can you imagine being with the same people? There's been some changes along the way and some different lineups, but at this stage, being with the same people that you started out with when you were 18, can you imagine when you look at each other's faces, all the landmarks of your first, New York gig, and you had all these different kind of things throughout, just a career, and then to reach this stage together, it's how everything should be. I am so fucking proud of Killing Joke.
Yeah.
I am so proud. All the guys in Killing Joke should congratulate themselves for getting this far. I salute them. I love them with all my heart. And everybody who's put food into our stomachs and helped us in our struggles to get to this point. I am amazed. I am overwhelmed. I'm emotional about it. The privilege, the supreme privilege to be in this band that is now the most influential band on the fucking planet. And those are not my words.
Yeah.
Those are others. And it's just gone this way. And we have worked hard. Geordie and myself, we've done over 4,000 concerts or something like this now. It doesn't sound so much, but we just haven't stopped. We just have not stopped. We just kept going. And what a journey. And that's why I'm so looking forward to hanging out with the gatherers on this tour, hanging out with them and us all coming together and sharing time together, because we do it in a way no other band does it, And fuck COVID, we have an open dressing room policy still. And if I see people outside, I'll always invite them into the sound check, as we always have done. And I'm so proud of this tradition. I'm so proud of us.
And are these feelings also exemplified by the near-death experience, by your illness last year?
Oh, gosh almighty, oh, God, all the gatherers I can't even tell you what happened to me in Mexico, because I've not really told another human being. But the minute I got back to the UK, it was the gathering who nursed me to health, who looked after me. It was all members of the gathering, and it was the gathering in Czech Republic, and who's got me my health back. What can I fucking say, man?
Did it affect your creativity? Is this going to be
sure
hung over to
well,
the album?
That's all before us. We start out from the basis that whatever you think is good is shit, creatively. And whatever you think is coming from the Lord Almighty is still not good enough. We have to push harder.
Yeah.
And we have to push harder to try and get to this place. And, and the thing is about Killing Joke, when we actually play in the rehearsal room and then it locks right in, there's this a very special energy that no other band can create. And Jimmy Page said it always reminds him of the personalities of Killing Joke and the way we are. It always reminds him of Zeppelin. That's why Jimmy's been such a... When I was 21, 22, he gave me such great advice as a fatherly figure.
Yeah.
So I've been so blessed. And you think about this, when I was a little boy, Brian Jones used to fucking pick me up when I was a tiny kid. Pick me up and put me on top of the fruit machine. And what are the odds of all this happening?
Yeah.
And it makes you think whether Elon Musk is right, whether this reality that we call reality is what is known as entropic reduction, which is a fancy word for saying it's all a simulation.
Oh,
Now, there's some good arguments for this, but no better argument than my colleague Youth, who said, if it's a simulation, why is it so shit? And that's where, I guess I have to leave it on the entropic reduction. I think he's got a good point.
Yes.
No, if it is a simulation, the engineer, the supreme one of all who created it,
fucked up.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I don't know, it's a thing, but look, when you look at the history of our planet, we had the Pyramid Age, and I don't know whether you've been inside the Great Pyramid. Well, Killing Joke's actually done a session in the King's Chamber.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that the people who built that structure, I personally, I know that they weren't from here. I know they weren't from here because our engineer went to sleep in the King's Chamber, and then he went. He saw thousands of eyes, and ran out of the King's Chamber, kind of screaming, leaving us to believe that this was a place that. It was consciousness technology, and it was a portal, for sure. The place is a portal.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? You know what that is? That's probably a fire alarm that's triggered by Youth or Geordie smoking somewhere. Now, if I open the window now, I'm probably going to see one of them running across the street, which is normal, after they set off the smoke alarms. Yeah. I think that, to cut a long story short, that all of our history that we're taught, the best part of it, our notion of history, our notion of physics, our notion of theology, all of it is rubbish. And we believed our own lies that we are at the pinnacle of evolution, and everything has been a crescendo up to our current state, which we personify. No, I don't buy that at all. The past of mankind is so much more mysterious than people would realize. And of course, I've given my life to find out two things: who runs this world and how it's run, and what the fuck is that?
He's still smoking, but
we've reached this stage, and it's a terrifying and wonderful time. I talked with Dr. Stephen Greer about this time, and he's the guy behind the Disclosure Project. And if anybody hasn't seen the Disclosure Project, I urge them to do this. And he's given his life to the whole UFO thing, which of course is real. It is very real, and we're like 2 years ago, the American media admitted that the U.S. Air Force is using this advanced aerial identification program for UFOs and stuff in their fighter jets. And so, and I sent this to my brother, who's always laughed at the existence of UFOs, and he didn't answer. So my feeling is that we're probably close to some kind of disclosure as well. The fact that we've never been alone, and there's been many different species who've mucked around with this ape that we're part of, and used us for various things. I think this planet is akin to a kind of laboratory of a kind, and there's been many different races who've visited, and it's more complex than we could imagine. And there you go. Now, what happens to democracy, you see, when barely 1% of the population can understand the complex systems of the day, is it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is why, you're going to have, regimes like China and Russia probably work in better because nobody's got any choices, right? They can cut to the chase with whatever they want to implement. Whereas, like, democracy is just a state of confusion and backwards and forwards. And of course, we put deep states in there so that whoever gets in, the same sort of policies are carried out regardless. Everybody can see this. We need a revolution of the heart, because revolutions, generally speaking, they don't work if we look at them historically. One tyrant replaces another. But we need a change of consciousness. And this is something I've given my life to, is planetary consciousness. And we'll talk about this because we need planetary consciousness to avert global war. We need to get to this point where all men are equal, as Gandhi said. I mean, we have to get to this point. I mean,
Jaz, finally, what I'm interested in we talked about a little bit with the Anglo-Indian background, but I'm actually getting really fascinated in your parents. What they like? What was it like growing up to create this environment where you get really overachievers like you and your brother questioning people, working in science and in music? And you said your father took you to the concentration camps, and were they creating an environment, a very questioning environment, or?
Yes, we're a family hardwired against fascism. Absolutely. I mean, I was brought up in the shadow of the last war, and so I cannot accept fascism in any form. I just simply cannot, and I have to point it out to people. That's one thing. But no, I realise now that I really had extraordinary parents who are both educational experimenters. They give us so much freedom. I mean, to put it in perspective, we were a very disciplined family. I mean, 5 days a week I studied music, and I'd get up early and I'd study different kinds of music, and I'd have my, piano and violin studies and this kind of thing, as well as vocal studies in music. And it was like an Anglo-Indian family is when my brother, at the age of 6, it was decided he'd do science and I would do music at the age of 4.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have it wasn't something like, it was just something we were born into. It's different in our family.
Yes.
And like my mother, we were always jealous of, my mother won the Teacher of the Year competition for Great Britain, but she would give exactly the same to her students as she would to peers and myself. And we were, of course, jealous of all her students because she gave so much of herself to them. And, my mother has her own fan club on this planet. Thousands of people. And we just went camping all the time, and it was a life of study. I used to breed moths, and I used to go fishing a lot. But it was very disciplined, and we travelled a lot we travelled a lot to the different countries and as a family, and I was very blessed. School didn't work for me at all. So people shouldn't worry about it if their children they don't like school, because I didn't like school, and I managed to self-educate. Everyone knows I had 4 criminal offences before I was 16. 1 poaching and 3 drug offences.
Yeah.
Yeah, all things they didn't catch me for, though. We could talk about that all day.
I want to know about the breeding of the moths.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a passionate breeder of moths, and down under on the island, I'm putting up kind of food plants for different species there, and trying to increase local populations of Lepidoptera. So I'm still into those things. I enjoy my minds, which is why I don't use modern systems of communication. I love my ability of critical thoughts, and I like to use my mind. I like to read off paper. And yes, when you look at the attention span of, well, let me give you an example of people these days. In the 80s, when you did lectures, you could do 20 minutes before you broke up a lecture with visuals or music. And now that you can't do more than 3 minutes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, people have got the attention span of a goldfish, and certainly not capable of critical thought. And when you kind of create something for the internet to capture people's attention, they will tell you, can't be more than like 10 seconds, 7 seconds, no, 15 seconds, no more than 15 seconds. People go somewhere else, like this kind of thing. You know, it's there. So what can I say? Yes, I'm somewhat disappointed, but it comes as no surprise, everything.
Yeah.
Of course I'm disappointed with the way things are. I'm disappointed, generally speaking, by human greed. I have to say this. And what I try and do is, my own way of dealing with this is, I live on a smaller budget as possible myself, and I live a modest standard of living. I didn't even go on a plane or stay in a hotel room until I was in Killing Joke. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm from just a family of 2 school teachers who were bright. That's all.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks for that, Jaz, and thanks for your time. I'm looking forward to the show in Manchester.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I hope you have a good day.
Yeah. Don't burn your hotel room down, or don't let Geordie burn his down.
No. You see, as you could hear, like the smoke alarm's going off, and I know it's one of ours.
Yeah. I kind of know from this distance as well. Yeah.
Anyway, have a wonderful day. I'm just heading off to rehearsal.
All right. Thanks a lot then. Okay.
All right.
Goodbye.
Ta-ra.
See ya.
Bye-bye.